What's up, ladies and gentlemen? So a little bit ago, I threw out the idea of covering the history of some of the covered bridges in West Virginia that I have been to. And wow, you guys really seem to be into covered bridges, so here we go. If you've ever dramatically changed your plans for the day because while driving somewhere, you saw some neat crap on the side of the road that you had to explore, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. I have a feeling you'll really appreciate what I do here on this channel. Of course, I do West Virginia history, travel videos, the paranormal, true crime. If it has to do with West Virginia, particularly weird West Virginia, I've probably talked about it or plan on talking about it at some point. West Virginia is home to 17 covered bridges, and today we're going to talk about a couple of them, their locations, and their histories. Now, this list, it isn't super comprehensive. It isn't a list of my favorite covered bridges. It isn't a list of the best covered bridges or covered bridges you absolutely have to visit. No, what it is, it's just a list of some of the covered bridges I've been to recently, got some really good pictures of, and just want to talk about with you guys. And an honorable mention goes out to the States Mill Covered Bridge. That's down at the Cedar Lakes Conference Center down right outside of Ripley, West Virginia. I spent a lot of time there back in the day, especially going to student technology conferences, and that's probably 90% of the reason why I have found myself doing these videos to this day. The first covered bridge we are going to talk about, though, is the Fish Creek Covered Bridge just outside of Hundred, West Virginia, located near where Route 7 overlaps with Route 250. The single-lane bridge is only 36 feet long and the only remaining covered bridge in Wetzel County. The original bridge was built in 1881 and replaced in 2001 and is still travelable to this day. The next bridge we're going to talk about is located on Route 20 near Bridgeport, West Virginia, and is the Simpson Creek Covered Bridge. While it is no longer travelable, this covered bridge is 75 feet long, 14¼ feet wide, and was also built in 1881. In 1889, a flood damaged the original bridge and it was relocated to where it is found today. In 2001, the West Virginia Division of Highways paid nearly $400,000 to renovate the bridge, and if you look at older pictures of the bridge, you'll notice there is a historical description sign that is no longer there, which is way more common of a problem than you might think. But that is a completely different topic for a completely different day. At one point, West Virginia had over 30 covered bridges, but over the years, many of them got destroyed, some by natural forces such as floods, but there's a handful of other ones that were actually destroyed during the American Civil War. And this is actually a neat little piece of history because two of the covered bridges that still stand to this day were actually threatened by the Jones-Aboden raid that lasted from April to the end of May 1863 and was an attack on the western counties of Virginia, which are now West Virginia. The raid sought to do two things. Number one, demoralize the young government of Western Virginia, as it was in its infancy at this point. But two, 2, it also wanted to hurt the Union Army by damaging key infrastructure and supply points for the Army. 2 of the bridges that escaped the wrath of the torch were the Barrackville and the Philippi covered bridges. On April 29, 1863, the same day, General Jones ordered the destruction of Francis Pierpont's house and law libraries at the raid in Fairmont. Jones's troops also rode into Barrackville with their sights set on destroying the covered bridge located there. That was until members of the Ice family, who owned a nearby mill, showed up and told them that while they supported their cause, the destruction of the bridge would have long-lasting effects on the town of Barrackville and their mill. Instead, Jones's troops decided to try to kidnap Waitman Willie, who was associated with the young government of Western Virginia. While the Barracksville covered bridge is no longer open to vehicle traffic, this 145-foot covered bridge that spans the Buffalo Creek was designed and built by Eli and Lemuel Chenoweth in 1853. Now, if the Chenoweth name sounds familiar, we're going to talk about another one of Lemuel's bridges, the Philippi Covered Bridge, a much better known structure here in West Virginia. Sometime in April or early May 1863, Jones and his troops rolled into Philippi, West Virginia, site of one of the first land skirmishes of the American Civil War, where the Confederates had been overran and chased off nearly 2 years earlier. Again, very much like in Barrackville, Southern sympathizers came out of the woodwork and argued destroying the bridge would hurt the town worse than it would give the South any wartime advantage, and the bridge was left unscathed. Local folklore has it that later in the war, the bridge was used as a meeting place for President Lincoln and Confederate President Jefferson Davis to discuss terms of peace. While no historical records exist for this meeting, there are several local accounts of this story. The Philippi Covered Bridge was built in 1852 as part of the then Beverly and Fairmont Turnpike. This 285-foot long, 26-foot wide structure spans the Tigrit Valley River and is the longest covered bridge in West Virginia. It is also the only covered bridge that is part of the federal highway system. In 1934, the bridge was reinforced in order to make it more suitable for modern traffic and automobiles. In 1985, the bridge was damaged in the massive flooding that year known as the Killing Floods, which I did an entire video about that I'll stick a link for somewhere up around there and also down in the description. In 1989, the bridge had to be completely rebuilt after a gasoline truck that was refilling a nearby gas station's tanks overflowed, causing fuel to roll downhill to the nearby bridge that was later ignited by a passing vehicle. The fire almost entirely gutted the bridge, and it took 2.5 years and nearly $1.4 million to rebuild the bridge to how it is today. So I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the pictures I've been able to take of some of these covered bridges. across northern West Virginia this past year, and I hope you guys are inspired by some of these locations to check out some of the great travel destinations here in West Virginia. As always, consider subscribing to the channel for more West Virginia history and travel content, and of course sharing always helps grow the channel. And until next time, don't forget to stay wild and stay wonderful, and I'll talk to you later.